Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today I am here for another video. Before we get into this video, I want to preface, I'm sorry I didn't post any videos last week and I have been a little bit absent lately. I started a new semester at college and it's very crazy. I have 5 classes, 3 days a week. The only time I can really do things is Tuesdays and Thursdays, but just the adjustment process has been a little crazy and I've had a lot to do since starting a new semester. I have a lot of homework, so if I'm a little bit sporadic on posting videos or if I don't post videos for a couple weeks, just know that college has gotten a little crazy for me. So I hope you can understand that and I hope you're respectful of that. But yeah. So today I am doing my January wrap-up. So I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the month of January. Now, I read, I think, 9 books in the month of January. I only have about 3 of them with me, but yeah, like always, a lot of these are at home because I read them while I was at home. So let's get started. The first book I read in the month of January was actually Kitten's First Full Moon. It's a little kid's book by Kevin Higgis, or however you pronounce that. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I read this on January 13th. I found it at a museum in Madison when I went with my family, and I was just like, I love the full moon, so I wanted to read it. It was nothing special. I mean, it is a book probably meant for like 5-year-olds, so, you know, whatever, but, you know, I read it and it counts. The next books I read all are part of a series, and so the first book in that series is Skeleton Creek by Patrick Carman. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and this is about 2 kids who try to discover the mysteries in their town. There's a secret organization, there's a hidden treasure, there's a ghost. It's a really, really good series. I read Skeleton Creek from January 6th to January 13th. And the next book is Ghost in the Machine, which I read from January 13th to January 15th, and I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. The ending really was like, oh my goodness, like I was flipping through the last couple pages, and now I have read this series before, but I had forgotten a lot of the little details, and the one thing that's really unique about this series is half of it's in video format and half of it is in Ryan's point of view in journal entries. So you get these little website links and passwords to this website, and you get to watch little clips that the other character in this book made of the town, which is really unique, and I really like that aspect. The third book is The Crossbones, which I read from January 16th to January 17th, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really do enjoy this series a lot. Now, I did break it up a little bit. The next book I read was Blue Lily, Lily Blue, the third book in the Raven Cycles series, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 star. I really, really enjoyed this book. I really loved this series, and I actually really want to reread it in 2018, like a marathon of all 4 of them. So that's how much I love this series, because usually I wait a couple of years till I've forgotten a lot and then reread them. So I read this between January 16th and January 17th, about the same time I read The Crossbones. Now, I'm not a really fast reader. I did read this on audiobook. That's why it only took me 2 days, but I was so invested in that book that's another reason why it took me only 2 days. So the next 2 are also part of the Skeleton Creek series, and that is book 4, The Raven, which I actually have here. So this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I read this from January 18th to January 21st, and I will show you what I mean by like the little video aspects. So you get this website, and then you get a password, and you get to go watch videos that are in Sarah's point of view, while the books are in Ryan's point of view. And I really do love this series, and I really do recommend this series. And the last book in the series is The Phantom Room. Now, I had to bring these with me because I was in the middle of the Raven when I was driving back home to come to college again for the spring semester, so that's why they're here with me and the others aren't. I read this from January 23rd to January 25th, and sadly I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I have reviewed it on Goodreads, so I can link my Goodreads down below if you want to see my review. But I did review this on Goodreads, and my biggest problem with this book is there were inconsistencies between The Raven and The Phantom Room. Like, there's a character who has previously moved away in one of the books is now back, and there's no explanation as to why. That is the main inconsistency between this, but another inconsistency is the writing style. The other books are in journal style, and this one is more in, like, a format that's, like, what's the word I want to use? It's more categorized, so, an example is, like, instead of dates at the top, it's things like this underlined portion that's, like, category, and then it tells a story underneath that. And while that's not bad, it's just I got used to the dates at the top and the journal style, and I just couldn't get over the fact that this felt like a different author just decided to write this book. But all of these books are by Patrick Carman. He did get a new publisher from the time he wrote The Raven to the time he wrote The Phantom Room, which is why it looks so different from The Raven too. And another thing is, he published this 3 or 4 years after he published The Raven. And a huge thing I think is a problem with this is I really felt like The Raven wrapped up the series perfectly. I didn't feel like they needed to be a 5th book, first of all, in the first place. It's just, I feel like The Raven wrapped up the series and there was no need for this one. If you guys disagree with me, I'm sorry. But I just felt like The Phantom Room, well, it was a really good story and a really intriguing story. It really didn't need to be part of this series. It could have been its own separate book. So, yeah. The next book I read is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson, and I read this from January 26th to January 28th, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. Now, I was very hesitant going into this because of the premise. It's about a girl whose sister just died, and there's 2 boys, one who helps her forget, and one who helps her remember this huge traumatic life event. And now, this isn't a spoiler, it says it right on the back of the book that her sister passed away, but my main problem with it is one of the love interests in this book is her sister's ex-boyfriend. I was very hesitant about that aspect going into the book, but I did ultimately really love it. It has some beautiful thoughts on coping mechanisms and, you know, friendship and love and family, and it's a really, really good book. So if you've read Jandy Nelson's other book, I'll Give You the Sun, and are hesitant to get into this book, I say give it a try. Because I was the same boat as you, and I really loved this book. Now, the last book I don't have with me because it is at home, and I read it on audiobook, and that is The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. I finished the Raven Cycle series in the month of January, and I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I think the only one in this series I didn't give 5 out of 5 stars was The Dream Thieves, but hopefully in my reread I can figure out why. I read this from January 29th to January 30th, so pretty much the end of the month, and I absolutely love this conclusion to a series. I do feel like the epilogue could have been a little more in depth or like not included at all, But I really, really did enjoy this book. This book series is one of my favorite series of all time, and I absolutely love it. Those are all the books I read in the month of January. Now we're going to talk about the one book I DNF'd this month, because I'm going to include this in my monthly wrap-ups, because this is a goal I am doing for myself this year, is to keep track of all the books I DNF. And so the one book I DNF'd in the month of January is Book Scavengers by Jennifer Bertman or something like that. There's a middle name, but I don't think I can pronounce that. But this is a middle grade novel about this scavenger hunt for books, obviously. It says it there, but I feel like it's a little on the young side, and yes, it's middle grade, but some middle grades are really good, but this just wasn't my interest. This felt more like a 10-year-old boy who really loves reading would love this more than I would, but yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. This is the one book I DNF'd this month. And so, yeah, that is also on my Goodreads if you want. I have a whole shelf for DNF'd books if you want to look at that. So, yeah. These are all the books I read this month. This is the one book I DNF'd. I will see you soon for a new video. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you wish. And I will see you in another video very soon. Goodbye!